dollar. Looks like they're dumping it.
The world's largest oil producer, Saudi Arabia, is reportedly asking to join BRICS.
As more and more developing nations, including some of the world's largest economies, decide to ditch the dollar in their bilateral trade, voices of concern and even despair are being heard in the US over the looming end of America's global financial dominance.
China is gunning for the end of the US dollar, and it might really be the end. You see, Chinese banks have decided to make a bold move, plunging over $100 billion into a bet against the US dollar. It seems a bit ridiculous betting against the world reserve currency, but this isn't just some casual gamble. It's a meticulously crafted financial strategy aimed at reshaping global currency dynamics. The message is clear. They're looking to weaken the dollar's dominance in the global market while simultaneously boosting the renminbi, the Chinese currency, positioning it as a credible alternative. But hold on, this isn't solely about economics. This is a power play. To fully understand China's financial maneuvers, we need to dissect the intricate geopolitical stakes involved. What is exactly happening? And why does it matter? Well, shifting currencies, dollar supremacy, geopolitical maneuvers, these aren't abstract concepts. They are real, tangible elements that could redefine the future of global commerce. As we watch this financial chess game unfold, the implications are staggering, sending ripples through economies, affecting everyday lives, and reshaping power dynamics on a global scale. Let's be real. The US dollar isn't just any currency. It's the world's go-to currency dominating trade, finance, and reserves. In fact, it accounts for about 60% of global foreign exchange reserves and is the primary currency for international transactions. With such a stronghold, the US has the unique ability to leverage its currency for economic and geopolitical gain, making the stakes for China's ambitions sky high. So as China aspires to cultivate a currency that can stand toe-to-toe with the dollar, it's also positioning itself as a formidable counterbalance to US hegemony, maneuvering against Western influences that have long held sway. This rivalry isn't merely a matter of dollars and cents, it's a deep-seated clash between fundamentally different worldviews and governance models that could shape global relations for decades, if not longer. So what's China's plan exactly? Financial shorting isn't merely a buzzword, it's a powerful tool in China's intricate economic strategy. When Chinese institutions decide to short the US dollar, they're not just playing a game, they're aiming to slash its value while boosting the worth of their own currency. It's basic economics revolving around supply and demand. This act of shorting crafts a compelling narrative that captures the attention of investors worldwide. The global financial landscape begins to frame the dollar as sluggish and weakened, largely due to China's aggressive financial maneuvers. If more stakeholders start buying into this story, we could witness a seismic shift in the forex market, ultimately shaking the dollar's long-standing position as the globe's go-to reserve currency. Now, let's dive into the nitty-gritty of currency swaps. These foreign exchange swaps are pivotal in China's tactical playbook. In essence, they enable Chinese banks to seamlessly exchange yuan for dollars, or the other way around, with various financial institutions. It's like orchestrating a delicate dance that navigates around the traditional dollar-based channels. These swaps serve a dual purpose. They not only help prop up the yuan when the dollar is surging, but they also allow China to gain a tighter grip on its currency values and capital flows. By minimizing direct dollar transactions, they reduce vulnerability and foster a stronger and more resilient financial ecosystem. So, what's the game plan here? Well, instead of recklessly burning through their hard currency reserves to prop up the yuan, these cunning financial tactics provide China with a variety of alternative strategies essential for stabilizing its currency. This method isn't just smart, it's crucial for maintaining economic stability without falling into the abyss of hastily depleting reserves. After all, safeguarding those reserves is vital for long-term economic health and sustainability. But hold on, let's not forget there's more than just economics at stake here. Beneath this layer of strategy lies a profit motive that can't be ignored. By placing bets against the dollar's strength, Chinese banks stand to rake in substantial profits if the dollar faces a downturn. This isn't just wishful thinking, it's a calculated financial positioning. If China plays its cards right and succeeds in its endeavors, it means not only a bolstered economic standing for the nation, but also a rejuvenated appeal for the renminbi on the international scene. This could be a game changer. These strategies represent an essential shift in how China approaches its economic challenges, demonstrating a finesse that could reshape the landscape of global finance for years to come. The chessboard of international currencies is evolving, and China is no longer just a player. It's positioning itself as a formidable contender, altering the rules of the game. What will this mean for the future of currency dynamics? And you might also be asking, what does this monumental shift mean for the forex markets? Well, when a major economic player like China makes such an enormous short position, it sends shockwaves through the currency exchange arena. Traders start to take notice and weigh the implications. Concerns rise about the stability of the US dollar. As China intensifies its efforts against the dollar, we witness increased volatility in trading rooms around the globe. This volatility impacts everything. It's a wild ride that touches on import costs, international investment flows, and can even influence the pricing of goods. This could be disastrous to lots of nations' economies. Remember, the US dollar is the world reserve currency. So why exactly is China doing this? I mean, if the stakes are this high, surely there must be a reason that is more than just dominating the world, or is there? Let's break it down. Look, whatever happens, China is not just going to be sitting back while the US dollar reigns supreme. This is about protecting the Chinese economy from foreign influence and sanctions and boosting national pride in its currency as a symbol of rising global power. This is necessary for them as the US Federal Reserve and its monetary policies are significantly influencing the yuan's troubles. When the Fed cranks up interest rates, which seems to happen more often these days, the dollar surges in strength. Investors are irresistibly drawn to the dollar, lured by the promise of higher returns. It's a siren call that capital simply cannot resist. But as funds flood into the US, the yuan weakens in stark contrast. For China, this isn't just a minor inconvenience, it's a serious challenge to maintain the value of their currency. The stakes couldn't be higher. A stronger dollar means Chinese exports become pricier, which could jeopardize trade relationships and hit the economy where it hurts. And right now, the country has been navigating through some particularly tumultuous conditions. Economic growth is stalling, and the effects are palpable, creating turbulence in the financial landscape. There have been reports of factory shutdowns, which is never a good sign. Consumer demand is on a downward spiral, and investor confidence has hit a wobbly patch. This economic chaos paints the yuan in a dim light, making it a less attractive asset. When global markets perceive that China is in a downturn, it shakes investor confidence to its core, prompting a concerning exit of capital. Historically, the trajectory of the yuan against the dollar has been feeling like a movie with ups and downs, a roller coaster of emotions. In recent years, especially beginning in late 2016, we've witnessed a troubling downward trend for the yuan. This plummet has been exacerbated by escalating trade tensions with the United States. These trends reveal a stark reality. Investor sentiment is shifting in a way that has put immense pressure on the yuan's value. And speaking of pressure, let's talk about capital outflows. These have become a hot topic. As the storm clouds of economic slowdown gather and the dollar appears stronger, capital is making a hasty exit from China as if it were running from a fire. This relentless outflow not only fuels the yuan's depreciation, but also sends out alarm bells throughout China's economy. A decrease in capital means less investment, which in turn stalls economic growth and creates a vicious cycle that's hard to break. Add to the mix the looming threat of sanctions, and you've got a perfect storm brewing, a potential crisis waiting to unfold. China is juggling these challenges while desperately attempting to regain control, but the mounting pressure is undeniable. But here is the thing, if China succeeds, then change is inevitable. So the question is, will it work? Who will win? Well, let's look at both of their strategies. Starting with the People's Bank of China. This isn't just a passive observer in the tumultuous waters of global finance, it's a tenacious player, actively working to maintain stability for the yuan against the backdrop of a shifting economic landscape. When the markets begin to shake, the People's Bank of China springs into action, infusing the currency with strength. This isn't merely a precaution, it's a bold strategy aimed at buying up yuan when it senses the ominous shadows cast by the US dollar encroaching on its territory. The stakes couldn't be higher. This maneuver comes with far-reaching implications. The People's Bank operates with an acute awareness of its responsibility to foster economic confidence, both at home and abroad. When they make a move, it sends out an urgent message to investors. The government is not just aware of the challenges, but actively striving to manage them. The stability of the yuan isn't just a political statement, it's a vital lifeline for the Chinese economy, reassuring those who engage in trade and investment that their interests are safeguarded, regardless of outside pressures. But this is just the tip of the iceberg. Just recently, a bold merger happened between two state-backed brokerages aimed at creating a whopping $230 billion financial powerhouse. This isn't your average corporate reorganization. Think of it as a strategic military operation designed to bolster China's economic fortifications against the encroaching dominance of Western financial institutions, particularly Wall Street. By joining their financial resources, China hopes to streamline operations and amplify efficiency while simultaneously expanding its influence in the cutthroat arena of global markets. The grand plan here is monumental. This merger isn't merely about consolidating power, it's about redefining the rules of engagement on the world stage. Envision this as China shoring up its financial artillery, preparing to establish itself as a formidable player that can take on existing financial titans head-to-head. This vision of China extends well beyond just creating a robust bank. It's about elevating Chinese investment banks to sit at the top echelons of global finance. Just as Silicon Valley breeds groundbreaking tech disruptors, China has its sights set on nurturing elite investment institutions that are capable of not only competing with but potentially outshining their American counterparts. Xi Jinping's ambitions for China's financial sector are as clear as the sky on a summer's day. He wants Chinese banks to earn their stripes as recognized power players in the global financial arena, facilitating international investments with ease and expanding their influence well beyond the borders of China. This is more than just national pride. It's about reshaping the narrative in global finance, broadening China's footprint, and upturning the traditional order. Each advancement in this strategy signals a profound shift that could alter the global economic landscape as we know it, posing a real challenge to the long-standing dominance of the US dollar. The implications are immense. Less reliance on one currency could spark a seismic change in international finance, opening up new avenues for global trade and investment. So what is happening to the dollar? Throughout this period, the global economy is experiencing a profound and transformative evolution, particularly in the realm of the currencies that nations choose to adopt. Over the past several decades, we have observed a dramatic and far-reaching shift in the dynamics of currency utilization. This change is not merely incremental, but represents a seismic upheaval in how currencies are used and perceived around the world. Let me explain. From emerging digital currencies to the reevaluation of traditional fiat money, the transformation is reshaping economic landscapes and challenging established financial norms. This shift is driven by a complex interplay of technological advancements, geopolitical shifts, and evolving economic policies marking a new era in global finance. As nations grapple with various economic crises and navigate shifting political landscapes, the hunger for alternatives to the United States dollar has reached a fever pitch. Countries are now taking a hard look at their dependency on this dominant currency for international trade settlements. And let's be honest, it's about time. With emerging economies, particularly across Asia, gaining momentum, we're on the brink of witnessing alternative currencies, like the renminbi, stepping into more prominent roles that could redefine economic interactions globally. This push is not just about diversification, it represents a strategic maneuver to reduce vulnerabilities tied to the dollar's overwhelming influence. Countries are rethinking how they conduct trade, realizing that perpetually relying on the United States dollar comes with its own set of risks. So, as nations reconsider their monetary strategies, they are sending a clear message. Change is afoot. The diversification of currencies in trade settlements isn't merely another passing trend. This marks a crucial pivot toward a more multipolar economic world where multiple currencies play a significant role, thus reshaping the global financial framework. One striking strategy emerging from this ongoing shift away from dollar dominance is the gradual divestment from the U.S. Treasury bonds. Countries, especially those facing the brunt of United States sanctions or geopolitical tensions, are reevaluating their once cherished investments in what used to be considered a safe haven for financial assets. By slashing their holdings in United States debt, these nations are not just trying to safeguard their own economies. They're making a savvy move aimed at lessening their dependence on the dollar. This choice serves as a powerful statement, like a shot across the bow against dollar dependence. It signals a shift toward exploring alternative investment options that resonate more closely with their geopolitical aspirations and economic objectives. And as for the Chinese currency, recent data reflects an undeniable upward trajectory, with countries ramping up efforts to use Chinese-backed currency in bilateral trade agreements, particularly with key trading partners. Take a look at Russia and Iran, for instance. These nations have begun to accept payments in yuan, marking a significant deviation from their previous habits of relying solely on the dollar. This evolution isn't just a financial footnote. It represents a potentially historic shift in how trade and economics function globally. We're witnessing the dawn of a new era, where multiple currencies, led by the yuan, could redefine how nations engage in trade and investment.
But what's the U.S. doing?
Well, the United States is ramping up its efforts to counter China's strategic maneuvers aimed at elevating the yuan while diminishing the dollar's long-standing dominance in global finance. The response is multifaceted, intertwining an array of sanctions and financial policies designed to reinforce the supremacy of the dollar. As tensions escalated, so too has the urgency for the U.S. to act. First up, the U.S. is reportedly crafting sanctions that could significantly restrict certain Chinese banks from tapping into the dollar's vast resources. This isn't a token gesture, it's a calculated step aimed at pushing back against what Washington views as China's increasing support for Russia during its aggressive military actions in Ukraine. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has openly accused China of supplying crucial technology to Russia, a notion that has prompted the U.S. to consider serious punitive measures aimed at Chinese financial institutions tied to these activities. It's a clear signal. Mess with America's economic interests, and there will be consequences. Now, as alternative currencies gain traction, American officials, including the ever-vigilant Federal Reserve Governor Christopher Waller, are reiterating the dollar's vital role in the fabric of global finance. They make it crystal clear that the dollar is still the king of foreign exchange transactions, making an appearance in over 90% of such dealings. Waller has voiced confidence that while challenges loom on the horizon, the dollar's reign as the world's reserve currency isn't about to be dethroned anytime soon. He acknowledges, however, that geopolitical tensions and sanctions could create ripples that might influence how the dollar is perceived and used in the future. And even analysts are quick to point out a glaring issue in this unfolding strategy: a lack of a cohesive, coordinated response from the U.S. government to address China's de-dollarization moves. The current framework is scattered across various agencies, which potentially dilutes the effectiveness of U.S. reactions to the increasing sway of the yuan. It raises an interesting question. How can a country expect to counter a comprehensive economic strategy when its own response is fragmented? Now, let's take a look at how the U.S. plans to leverage its traditional financial allies to stave off the encroaching yuan. Washington is banking on the strength and unity of its financial relationships built with longtime allies to outweigh China's burgeoning ties with Russia. However, there's a twist in this narrative. Countries in the global south are showing an increasing interest in adopting non-dollar currencies for their transactions. This presents a formidable challenge to U.S. interests and raises the stakes for de-dollarization efforts on a global scale. Which brings us to the next topic: partnerships as weapons. The dynamics of partnerships being wielded as tools of geopolitical influence are becoming increasingly apparent in the ongoing complex interplay between China and NATO. As both entities navigate a labyrinthine landscape marked by escalating tensions and fierce strategic competition, this will change everything. Starting with NATO, it's clear that the alliance has sharpened its focus on China in a significant way. During the recent NATO summit held in Washington, leaders came together to issue what can only be described as their most forceful condemnation of China thus far. They branded China a decisive enabler of Russia's ongoing military campaign in Ukraine. This statement isn't just rhetoric, it encapsulates NATO's deep-seated concerns regarding China's support for Russia's military-industrial complex, which directly affects Euro-Atlantic security. But NATO isn't stopping there. It's ramping up its partnerships with key Indo-Pacific allies like Japan, South Korea, Australia, and New Zealand. These relationships aim to address a plethora of shared security challenges, from cyber threats to disinformation campaigns, all while counteracting China's growing influence in the region. The alliance's increased engagement signals a bold strategic pivot toward the Indo-Pacific, a recognition that developments there ripple back to impact the stability and security of Europe and North America alike. Moreover, NATO is rolling out exciting new joint projects with its Indo-Pacific partners that concentrate on critical areas such as military healthcare, cybersecurity, and countering misinformation. These initiatives are crafted to deepen cooperation and fortify the capabilities of both NATO and its partners in tackling mutual security concerns head-on. It's a strong statement that NATO is committed to collaborative and proactive engagement. On the flip side, China is not sitting idly by. In response to NATO's aggressive posturing, China has upped its military game. The nation has conducted joint military exercises with Russia and Belarus, making it abundantly clear that it is serious about strengthening its military ties and showcasing its capabilities. Political and security coordination within BRICS is another focal point. The organization serves as a vital platform where members can synchronize their political agendas and collaborate on a variety of global issues, especially those related to security dynamics. With a firm emphasis on principles such as mutual respect, sovereign equality, and consensus, BRICS operates with a unique democratic ethos that stands in stark contrast to many Western-led regimes. Regular summits and meetings among member states facilitate rich dialogue about pressing international challenges, creating a forum for joint reflection and decision-making. As BRICS works to strengthen its influence, it's positioning itself as a direct counterweight to Western-led institutions like the G7. This is not just idle sentiment, it is a deliberate strategy to forge collaboration among emerging economies. By doing so, BRICS strives to craft a more multipolar world order, one that genuinely reflects the interests and aspirations of its member nations rather than succumbing to the dictates of established Western powers. The coalition's collective efforts to reform essential global financial institutions, including the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank, shine a light on these ambitions, with BRICS advocating for a fairer representation of developing countries within these organizations. The recent expansion of BRICS to encompass additional countries is no mere coincidence. It's a calculated move intended to enhance its global influence significantly. The inclusion of oil-rich nations like Saudi Arabia and the UAE not only boosts the bloc's economic clout, but also creates a robust platform for these countries to collaborate on critical energy and trade issues. This expansion signals a growing interest from a multitude of nations looking to join BRICS, further solidifying its status as a pivotal player in the global arena. Plus, the potential establishment of a BRICS currency, along with the promotion of trade in local currencies, could trigger a paradigm shift in global finance. The implications are profound. Not only could this diminish the dollar's long-standing dominance, but it could also weaken the impact of U.S. sanctions aimed at these nations. BRICS' emphasis on deepening economic and political collaboration among its members positions it as a powerful alternative to established Western alliances, thereby raising the potential for heightened tensions between these competing blocs. As BRICS continues its expansion and fortifies its cooperative initiatives, its role as a counterbalance to Western influence is bound to grow exponentially. It is poised to become a critical player in the ever-evolving geopolitical landscape, challenging long-held assumptions and restructuring the foundations of global power dynamics. But what's your thoughts on this? Let's know in the comments. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.